All right, here I'm quickly going to run through uh, revising these questions and the key points. So we have the first question here. Why do people have problems? And B part discuss six examples of problems dealt with by social workers. Um, Going through the first question, why do people have problems? Problems are inherent to human condition and they arise due to a variety of factors. And this could include individual circumstance, society dynamics such as socialization, environmental influences. So people face problems because they're constantly navigating complex interaction between the physical, emotional, and their social needs. So take note of these three needs: the physical, emotional, and social needs. Now, some common reasons include unmet needs, societal inequalities, interpersonal conflicts, mental challenges, structural barriers such as poverty and other systematic discrimination. And furthermore, life transitions like bereavement, because life is not static itself, it's moving. So that's why we run into problems. Job loss, because you can't predict what will happen in future, chronic illness, and then you see this all these challenges can make life very difficult for individuals to navigate. So problems are also tied to individual environment, to an individual environment, and their access to resources. So limited access to education, health, support, and other things compounds the existing struggle because life itself is a struggle or survival, when to eat, how to get the food, how to protect yourself, healthcare, and other societal challenges. So additionally, cultural expectations, stigmas, and can prevent individuals from seeking help, leaving their problem unsolved and potentially worsen over time. So now I will go properly into that question one again. Why do people have problems? Because we'll go straight here after the introduction I did earlier, talking about people's experiences and how they can overcome them for various reasons. So people experience problems for various reasons, and these issues can arise from a combination of, let's look at these five things. We're looking at one, genetic, two, social, three, cultural, environment, and structural factors. These whole five things are embedded to make our environment. And human beings are an island, so we operate in an environment. We are put in our environment. So the first environment we have as humans, the first things we have as human is our body, and this body carry our DNA, our genetic disposition. These are things we inherited. So the hereditary conditions, for example, individuals can inherit certain health issues such as mental illness, diabetics, and other chronic diseases, which can significantly impact the quality of life. Of course, when you have diabetics, you have mental issue, and you have other chronic illness, all these can impact the quality of life. So these are genetics and hereditary. So these inherited traits can influence your behavior, your personality, because, for example, those with mental illness, they won't behave properly except they are treated or have overcome that situation. So even susceptibility to external stressors. So yeah. Susceptibility to external stressors. This happens as you see for people who are having asthma, who are asthmatic. You see external stressors like dust and working in a very hard environment that is not clean or in an environment that requires them to do a lot of hard work stresses them. So these external stressors will lead to the asthmatic uh, episodes that they could have, creating challenges that are difficult to address without medical and physiological intervention. So, yes, so genetics is one of the major reasons why we have problems and hereditary factors. Two, socialization. Like I earlier said, we've talked about the biological aspect, which is the genetics. Then human beings don't operate in vacuum. We as humans don't operate in vacuum. So the individual ways we socialize during childhood and throughout life plays a crucial role in shaping our behaviors and coping mechanisms. You see, poor socialization, such as growing up in an abusive and neglective environment, can lead to problems such as low self-esteem, poor decision-making skill, poor money management skill, difficulty in forming healthy relationship, and insecurity, jealousy, anger. You see, your level of socialization, if it's not that healthy, can lead to several other challenges. Additionally, societal norms, peer influence can sometimes encourage harmful behavior such as substance abuse and criminal activity. So, if you grow up in a place that is not good, the human being is about nature and nurture. So, the nature is the genetics we talked about, and the nurture is the socialization. So, you have been nurtured, you've been brought up. So, if you associate with people who are criminals, who are drug peddlers, who are drug users, you see, you're gonna end up that way. But if you associate with people who are intelligent, maybe academically, who socialize properly, who are religious, who are obedient to their parents, who are obedient to government laws and regulation, high probability and chances that you turn out that way too. So let me don't dwell too much on question one. So I'll breeze through now. Cultural differences, cultural diversity. Yes, while enshrining can sometimes lead to misunderstanding and conflict. People from different cultural backgrounds may have various beliefs, values, and practices, which can create friction and interpersonal and societal interaction. For example, differing views in gender roles. Yes, this cuts across cultures, across religion, across family structures, can cause disagreement or discrimination, and particularly in multicultural settings. Environmental factors. You see, like I said, human beings, we are in our body, but we operate in an environment. So environmental factors such as where you live, the available resources have a significant impact on your life. Uh, for instance, people living in poverty-stricken areas often affected with limited access to basic necessities like healthcare, education, clean water, and which can exacerbate their challenges, which can make their challenges worse. Excuse me. So environmental disaster like pollution, poor urban planning can also create additional problems such as homelessness, health issues. So these environmental factors. So can living near a dump area, living in an area that doesn't have good gutter, living in areas that have been destroyed by flood. So you see a lot of big holes, gullies dug by flood, and these things are these environmental factors can really disturb the individual growing up and behavior. Five, opportunity structure, distribution of opportunity structure within the society determine the extent of problems individual face. Oh, yes, you see, unequal access to education, unequal access to employment, social mobility can limit individuals' ability to improve from their circumstances, perpetuating cycles of poverty and disadvantage. There's every tendency that a child of a poor man who is not educated, who doesn't have the opportunity, even if he's educated, cannot find employment, remains in the village or remains in the neighborhood that is poor, will turn into crime and other deviant activities. So, for example, people who are marginalized in the villages, in the rural areas, They experience systematic discrimination, structural inequalities. Also, people in the riverine areas that are not well developed, so they experience this. So, in summary, question one, problems arising from complex interplay between genetics, social, cultural, environmental, and structural factors. And these structural factors is opportunity structure. So when you remember the genetic, you remember the social, you remember the cultural, you remember environmental, you remember the structural. Understanding the root cause is essential for you to address individual societal challenges. So social workers, policy makers must adopt a holistic approach. That's one of the holistic approaches, the system approach that consider that there are diverse factors that create sustainable solutions affecting people and facing people. Move to question two. Question 1B rather, sorry. Six examples of problems dealt with by social workers. Social workers deal with mental health issues. Social workers, especially those in the clinical social work, often assist individuals suffering from conditions of depression, anxiety, substance abuse. They provide counseling, support, advocacy for access to mental health services, which is a major challenge in our environment here. Access to mental health services because of the stigma attached to mental health issues. Two, we have poverty and financial instability. You see, poverty and financial instability, social workers help individuals and families navigate unemployment, homelessness, food insecurity by connecting them with financial aid, job training, and housing programs. So they handle poverty issue. Domestic violence, yes, social work plays critical role in supporting survivors of domestic abuse, domestic violence, helping them find shelter like husband beating wives. They have legal assistance for counseling, maybe during a divorce or during issues of domestic violence, counseling to rebuild their lives. So these are a whole lot of issues, domestic issues that child welfare issues. Yes, yes. Um, you look, social workers can intervene in cases of child abuse, neglect, and safety and well-being of children through family support services and alternative care placements. Number five, we have health related challenges. They assist individuals with chronic illness and disabilities in assessing healthcare, navigating insurance system, managing emotional toll of their condition. Yes, they advise them to take it easy, to take their drugs. It's not the end of life. Health related challenges. This social work aspect in hospitals and medical care centers or hospice centers. um, Immigration and refugee issues. For our case here in Nigeria, we could say social workers help uh, displaced people, people who are displaced, refugee issues, internally displaced people. And in foreign countries, they help immigration because we have people, migrants coming in from different countries, so they have to reintegrate them into the society by making them learn language, adjust employment, adjustment to new cultural environment, and all these things. So through all these interventions, social workers address both immediate needs of individuals and systematic factors contributing to their problems, ultimately fostering a better quality of life. Moving to question two. Question 2A, we have what is the meaning of theory? Um, Basically, a theory is structured uh, for explaining a phenomenon. A theory is used to explain a phenomenon and usually based on observation and experimentation and reasoning. So, basically, here we're talking about a theory as a structured explanation of a phenomenon. So, you should know that it is structured. It is structured. It's not haphazard. So a theory is a structured explanation of a phenomenon based on observation, experimentation, and reasoning. It serves as a framework to understand relationship between variables and various constructs,
provides insights why certain events and behaviors occurs. Theories are built on evidence and they are used to predict outcome, guide practice, and inform decision making. So, a theory is a structured explanation of a phenomenon or phenomena based on observation, experimentation, and reasoning. So that's the meaning of theory. And so, in the context of social work, theories offer professional foundations to understand human behavior, but that's the phenomenon here, societal trends, and the effectiveness of intervention strategies. For instance, theories like Maslow hierarchy law of needs or Erickson's stages of psychosocial development help social workers assess client situation and determine the appropriate support measures. So this is just a very simple definition of a theory. A theory, you take notes, is a structured explanation of a phenomenon based on observation, experimentation, and reasoning. This process of the observation, experimentation, and reasoning is a structured process. So uh, it's not common sense. You must observe, you must carry out some experimentation, you must carry out some reasoning. Then you now come and say, this is my conclusion on this. So that conclusion is the theory. So it's the way you now explain your observation, your experimentation, your reasoning. So that's why I say theory is a structured explanation of a phenomenon based on what you've carried out, observation, experimentation, and reasoning. I hope that will do. Going to question two. If your attributes of a good theory, that's question two. Number one, if for you to be able to come up with a good theory, it must be clear, concise, easy to understand, even when dealing with complex phenomena. You should break it down, break it down into stages, structure it into stages. Its language should be accessible to both professionals and lay persons. It should not be filled with so much complex and technical jargons that the lay person will not be able to understand. So, like we said, anything that has to do with experimentation, as highlighted here, experimentation, as highlighted here, would definitely uh, have empirical validity. So, number two, for attributes of a good theory, empirical validity, it should be grounded in evidence, supported by empirical research, grounded by empirical evidence, theory based. The validity of a theory is crucial for its application to real world scenario. It's not just a theory on paper. It's not just a theory that when you want to apply, it keeps failing. It's not just a theory that when it's mentioned, you know that this will not stand, this will not stand, it will not stand the test of time. So it should be grounded on evidence supported by empirical evidence. It must be evidence based empirical research. So that's so number three, explanatory power. The theory should effectively explain the phenomenon. Remember, at the definition of a theory, we said structured explanation of a phenomenon. So, you see, a theory should explain the phenomenon it addresses. For example, system theory explains that individuals interact with and are influenced by their social environment. So the system theory explains how individuals interact with and are influenced by their social environment. So you see the explanatory power. So simply here, you just understand that, oh, for system theory, it's telling you that how individuals interact with and are influenced by their social environment. So a theory should explain the phenomenon it addresses. So it should have that explanatory power. So it must be able to clarify, explain, and make clear what it's trying to address. Predictive capability. Here's a good theory allows practitioners to predict future outcomes based on current circumstance. This particularly This is particularly important in fields of social work where anticipatory interventions are crucial. So this is it. So predictive capability must be able to predict the future, must be able to predict happenings, must be able to predict trends. So that is when you say theory is good. Flexible and adaptability. Theory should be adaptable to different contexts. Yeah, one theory I know that it's used very well is system theory. It's used that a system works with interrelated environment, internal and external, and it works in different scenarios. You I used it in football how a team in my football research how a team talks about relate with the suppliers, with agents. A football club is a system, and as a system, it has to relate with its environment, with tax auditors, with agents, with suppliers, with fans, with several others. And bringing it down to university, BUK is a system, it's a school, it's a university, it's a system, and it has to relate with external people like other research bodies, has to relate with TED Fund, Ministry of Education, it has to relate with other people outside the system, its environment, the society, corporate social responsibility, the immediate town where it stays, that houses it. So if you look at it, a theory should be adaptable to different contexts. So you see how I've used system theory to accommodate or explain how BUK relates with its environment, that outside environment. And for system theory, it has both internal and external environment. The internal is the students, the internal is the faculties, the internal is the bursary department, the internal are all the related systems and departments that work together to bring out a product for the university and or to achieve the university aims and uh, and objectives. So let's take Kano State for example. In system theory, Kano State is a system and it operates in Nigeria. So Nigeria as a whole and other states, other stakeholders, non-state actors, other ministries, other federal parastatals, international organizations, NGOs, those are external bodies that Kano State must relate with to be able to work well as a system. And internally, it has its own MDAs, it has its own ministries and departments and agencies, that's MDAs. It has its own, it has the governor, it has the executive, it has the judiciary, it has all the legislative branches that it needs to work together for the system to function. So you see how flexible and adaptable system theory is. So a good system must be flexible and adaptable. Relevance. You see how I've used system theory to show that a theory must be relevant to the field it seeks to address. When I use system theory to address issue of BUK, I used it to address an issue in education. When I use system theory to address the issue of Kano State, I use it to address issue in politics and governance and statehood. And when I use the same system theory to address issue of a football team, I used it in sports and organizational management. So you see, it's, a good theory must be relevant to field it seeks to address. For example, theories in social work must account for diverse cultures, social and economic backgrounds of clients. In conclusion, theories are essential tools in social work practice, providing foundation for understanding complex behavior, guiding effective and good theory. A good theory is not does not only explain phenomena but empowers practitioners to make informed and impactful decisions. Going to question 3, uh, explain the tenets of system theory as applicable in social work. System theory is a framework that views individuals as interconnected with various systems, such as the family, community, and society. They all work together in the socialization process to form a state or a community. So it emphasizes that human behavior cannot be understood in isolation, but must be examined in the context of its relationship and systems in which individuals function. In social work practice, the key tenets of social system theory of the system theory includes holistic perspective. Social system theory promotes a holistic view of individuals by considering their interaction with various systems such as families, workplace, schools, communities, environment. This forms our environment. Like I said, the human being is in system theory here, looking at it as a whole organization, a whole organism that will have to relate with various things like his family, brothers, sisters, workplace colleagues, schools, uh, school is colleagues in school, community, family members, community-based organization, and all the others form. This helps social workers understand the root cause of problem and design comprehensive intervention strategy. Interdependence. Interdependence is the second tenet. It stresses that systems are interdependent on each other. I've earlier said human beings as a biological structure construct. We depend on our genetics, we depend on our social, cultural, environment, and structure, the structure of the society. You see, for example, a child behavioral problem may stem from family dynamics or genetics or societal influence, highlighting the needs to address a broader system. Interdependence. There is no human being that will function separately because he must relate with people. Is no man is an island on his own. So adaptability system theories are dynamic, constantly adapting internal to external changes. You see, I said the internal and the external in social theory, in system theory. So we have social workers help clients and their system adapt to changes such as economic hardship caused by the external environment, the external economy. Family transitions, like from single to married, from child to adult, from child to adolescent to adulthood, family transition, from um being married to being divorced, from being uh, married to being widowed, from being let's say a family that is rich, a transition to a family that have and doesn't have. So to maintain balance and functionality, so system theory must be adaptable to changes. Then feedback loops. Yes, it involves feedback. The external environment must feed the internal, and the internal sometimes will feed the external. The feedback mechanism that reinforce alter behavior. Positive feedback and promote growth. If your child does well, you 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 praise the child. If your student do well, you praise your student. If an employee does well at work, you praise the employee. The carrot and stick approach. You give him carrots, and when they do badly at work or don't follow instruction, you query them or you express the pressure displeasure. So which usually is the stick. So social workers use this understanding to break cycles of dysfunction. There must be a feedback loop. Focus on relationship. System theory highlights the importance of relationship within and between systems. For instance, understanding family rules influence a client's behavior, allow social workers address relational issues effectively. So that's a focus on relationship, like I said. So you do not, there's no interdependence. So you see, in practice, system theory enables social workers to intervene in multiple level, such as working with individuals to improve self-esteem, with families to enhance communication, with communities to address systematic inequalities they have and they have not. So we that's question three. Explain the tenets of the system theory applicable in social work practice. Holistic perspective, interdependence, adaptability, feedback loops, and relationship, focus on relationship. And 3B, what are the major
weaknesses in system theory. Despite its utility, system theory has several flaws and weaknesses when applied in social work. Overemphasis on complexity. Theory focus on interconnection of system can make problems solving overly complex. Because sometimes when you want to solve a problem, you need to isolate it and to deal with it individually. But in system theory, say you must connect it. You must connect the thoughts. You must connect everything. No human being. You must connect the family to the environment. You must connect the child to the family. Connect him to the school. Connect. You need to find where the problem is. So system theory can make those things very complex. Social workers may find it challenging to address all influencing factors within a limited time frame. Ambiguity. System theory does not provide specific guidelines or intervention, leaving practitioners to interpret how they apply the framework. This lack of clarity can hinder its practical application. Neglect of individual agency. Yes, system theory talks about interconnectivity, interconnectedness. Here, it talks about interdependence. So, interconnectivity is talking about saying that neglect for individual agency here as a downfall, meaning that if you are interdependent, it's saying that you can't do anything on your own, you must depend on another person must depend on you. Focusing on systems and relationship, the theory may overlook individual autonomy and personal responsibility, which are also critical in addressing problems. Yeah, people need to accept responsibilities for what they do. Personal autonomy, you must agree that even though people are interdependent, even though a child is dependent on his parents, the child is still a human being and might want to exercise some of his rights and freedom. So that's why there is a neglect for individual agency. And then resource intensive, implementing system theory often requires significant resource, such as time, access to various systems, and such. Like when you are auditing, you need different auditing in an organization. You need to liaise with different systems within the organization that form the organization. Like you have to check the HR, you have to check for number of staff, you have to check for number of goods sold from the sales department, check the accounts, if a number of sales sold from the sales department was money was paid into the bank. So you have to check with the finance, you have to check with the corporate social responsibility team. So you have to check with the whole system, which may not be available in all cases, but when it's available, it will take a lot of resources and is very resource intensive. Cultural bias, system theory may not have adequately addressed cultural differences, how individuals interact with systems, potentially limiting its relevance in diverse settings. So that is it. Why system theory provides a valuable framework for understanding human behavior, its limitation necessitate balanced approach, often integrating theories and methods to achieve effective social work outcome. Four here is it discuss two major branches of psychological theories, showing relevance of each to social work. So two major branches we'll be discussing here is the behavioral theory and psychodynamic theories. So behavioral theories such as those of B.F. Skinner and Ivan Pavlov, excuse me, focuses on observable behavior and the ways it's learned through interaction with the environment. So those are behavioral theories, B.F. Skinner and Ivan Pavlov. So those are the two uh, founders of or people who popularized behavioral theory. Classical conditioning, it explains that how individuals learn through association. So, for example, a client might be associate several situations with anxiety due to past trauma, like losing a loved one is traumatic. And when he hears that another person has lost a loved one, immediately he reflects again to the traumatic episode of how he or she loved the loved one. Or being involved in a robbery where your phone was snatched at gunpoint, and in future you just see someone with a gun, and then you remember when your phone was snatched. So this explains how individuals learn through association. Or you you grew up in a neighborhood uh, in maybe Hotoro, and there your parents were there, you grew up with your parents, and now your parents have now passed on, and you are married, and you now stay in Hadejia Road, or you stay in Sokoto outside Kano. And maybe you peradventure have a conference that brought you back to Kano, and then the conference is situated in Kutoro and close to the environment where you live. You see, you now start associating that environment again with your childhood, your parents, and all those things. So that's classical conditioning. This explains how individuals learn through association. You associate certain places with certain events, or certain events with certain places. You match it, your brain matches it. So we talked about operant conditioning. So under this behavior, I have classical and operant. Operant focuses on reinforcement and punishment as tool for shaping behavior. So, for instance, like I said earlier, positive reinforcement to encourage desirable behaviors, such as attending therapy sections regularly. Each time you attend therapy sections regularly, you could give yourself a cake, or buy yourself your favorite cooked meal, or cook your favorite meal, watch your favorite movie, and deny yourself that movie each time you fail to attend therapy, or each time you fail to reach a milestone, or or, or a milestone, each time you fail to reach a milestone, or uh, a goal. A goal. Relevance to social work. Behavioral theories are particularly useful in developing intervention strategies for individuals with maladaptive behaviors, such as substance abuse and aggression. So, for those case studies in family intervention, you can see that you know when to use behavioral theory when it involves aggressive behavior, maladaptive behavior, such as substance abuse, aggression. Social worker can use this technique like behavioral modification, positive reinforcement, to help clients adopt to healthier habits and coping mechanisms. And we're talking about the second one, psychodynamic theories, developed by Sigmund Freud. Please note that the first one, which is behavioral theories, B.F. Skinner and Ivan Pavlov, and psychodynamic, Sigmund Freud. Expanded by others, focus on unconscious processes, early life experience, and determination, and determinants, early life experience, such as determinants of behavior as determinants of behavior. So it's talking about early life experience that determines future behavior. So unconscious motivation behavior is influenced by unconscious desires, conflicts, often rooted in childhood experience. You see, like someone who grew up in a home where there is no trust. Everybody lies. So in future, the person goes to the larger society, trusting no one, or someone that grows up in a home where to eat is a problem. To they eat one square meal, and then goes to another home that they are wealthy, and he finds it funny that they are eating three times. He finds it funny that they are eating three times. So unconscious desires and conflict often rooted in childhood experience. And then you have defense mechanisms. Yeah, someone who has been abused as a child, either through rape or beatings or molestation, would have very thick skin and defensive mechanism, will not like to let down his or her guard. Or someone who bought a plot of land or property and has been swindled will find it very difficult to believe people, and that's why this defense mechanism, like we said, these are unconscious strategies individuals use to protect themselves from emotional pain, such as denial and repression. And you also look at this like in the society we are today now, you see someone comes to tell you that on the road that, oh, I forgot my transport at home. Please, can you help me with money? And immediately you form that defense mechanism that this guy is a scam artist. Is a scam artist, or is a scammer, or is a beggar, because you've been tricked by some other people before. So unconscious strategies individual use. So firstly, we talked about unconscious motivation. Yes, unconscious motivation. Unconscious motivation, let me go back to that a little. When you talk about unconscious motivation, is the feeling you derive after you've done something. You see, and there's something pushing you to do that thing without you knowing. Um, like someone who is motivated to always slander people because he grew up in an environment where slander and abuse is being used. Someone who just unconsciously motivated to insult people, insult others, disrespect others because the behavior that he or she developed initially uh, was in an environment where that thing was very predominant. And since abuse, neglect, and bad behaviors were dominant, so unconsciously that person is motivated to portray such behaviors in the future. Defense mechanisms, we've said it for emotional pain and denial and repression. People who have been disappointed before, you find out that people who have been in love before, who have been disappointed by either their partners they were trying to get married to at the tail end of their wedding, or people you see those people no longer trust or want to fall in love again, or you see those people who also have been in in business and the first business failed, and so you see them not wanting to go into business again because subconsciously they have built that defense mechanism. And then Sigmund Freud talks about stages of development, the theory of psychosexual development. Erickson's psychosocial stages emphasizes how early experience shape personality and behavior. It's relevant to social work. Psychodynamic theories are valuable for understanding deep-seated emotional issues, providing insight to clients' motivation, such as rape, such as divorce, such as issues of stealing, issues of deep issues that has to do with emotions, such as violence behaviors, such as often used in therapeutic setting, help clients explore unresolved conflicts such as disappointment in childhood, improve self-awareness, confidence, healthier relationship. So, comparison of both before conclusion. You see, both behavioral and psychodynamic theories offer unique insight into human behavior, complementing each other in social work practice. Behavioral theories are practical for addressing observable problems, developing concrete intervention, while psychodynamic delve into underlying emotional and problem, uh, psychological problem. Uh, so factors and problem. By integrating these approaches, social workers can address both surface level symptoms and deeper causes of clients' issues, creating holistic and sustainable solutions. Well, going down to five, we have discussed the position of conflict theory in social work practice. Conflict theory, primarily developed by Karl Marx, focused on inherent power struggles in the society, particularly between different classes and groups. The society is made of rich and the poor. Like in India, you have different castes. In Nigeria, you have different cultures, different people, different ethnic groups who are fighting for power, who are fighting for for survival, who are fighting for economic control of resources. The theory asserts that societal structures often designed to maintain dominance of one group over others, leading to inequality and oppression. Conflict theory is highly relevant in social work practice. It highlights systematic root causes of so many problems, social issues. Uh, Key tenets of social conflict theory focuses on inequality, emphasizes the role of economic, racial, gender inequalities, creating social problems. Social workers apply this perspective in addressing issues like poverty, unemployment, discrimination, understanding them as outcome of systematic oppression rather than individual failings. Saying that the individual is not the one that failed, it's the environment, the society, the structure that has failed them. So, advocacy of marginalized groups. So this is simple. Social workers use conflict theory to advocate the rights of underprivileged, marginalized populations such as women, children, racial minorities, low-income communities. They work to dismantle systematic barriers and create more equitable and egalitarian social structures. So power empowerment, yes, because it deals with inequalities by recognizing the power dynamics. It will help resolve relationship between institution, social workers, empower clients to challenge oppressive system. This will involve providing education resources and platform for marginalized people, so empowerment, NGOs, and other things. Structural change, yes, through conflict theory calls for addressing the root cause rather than the symptoms of the social issue. For example, instead of merely providing financial aid to poor family, social workers advocate policies that promote fair wage and affordable housing, good education, and several good health and other things that will lead to poverty. So, application in social work practice, conflict theory is informs practice like community organizing, policy, advocacy, and social justice campaigns. For example, social worker addressing homelessness may examine how housing policy have favored landlords over tenants, work to produce, work to promote tenant rights. Similarly, in cases where workplace harassment, the theory helps social workers focus on power imbalance, push for systematic changes, and ensure fair treatment and open door policy, and also protect the workers from harassment. That's what the labor law is meant to do, to protect workers from harassment. While conflict theory provides strong framework for addressing systematic issues. These are its criticisms. It has been criticized that emphasis on conflict and neglect cooperation of individual agencies. Yes, to a great deal, other agencies cooperate, people cooperate, the society cooperate, but this borders more on conflict. It hammers more on conflict, and so social workers often need to balance conflict theory with other perspective to address clients' needs effectively. And lastly, we are moving to question 6. Highlight the position of liberal feminist theory on social welfare and social work practice. Liberal feminism focuses on achieving equality between men and women through legal and social reform. See, this is not the radical means. It says you follow legal redress and social reforms. It seeks to remove systematic barriers to gender equality in areas such as education, employment, and politics using legal and social reforms. In the context of social welfare and social work practice, liberal feminism emphasizes individual rights, equal opportunity, and elimination of discrimination through legal and social reforms. The position in social work promoting equal opportunities, liberal feminism advocates that for policies that ensure equal access to resources and opportunities, equal pay, equal maternity leave for both men and women, afford childcare services. And then you see that's focus on legal reforms. It's supports implementations of laws to protect women's rights, and it's such as anti-discrimination legislation and protection against gender-based violence. That's GBV. And empowerment through education and employment. Liberal feminists argue that education and economic independence are key to empowering women, and social welfare programs should prioritize these areas. Position on social work practice. Social workers inspired by liberal feminism, focus on creating equitable system promoting women independence. For example, they may help women access job training programs, advocate gender inclusive workplace, support for survivors of domestic violence without stigma and other things, and regaining control over their lives. 6B, here we explain the basic difference between liberal feminist and radical feminist model in social work and social work practice. While liberal, like I've earlier explained, seeks redress through legal and social reforms. Radical feminism advocates for women's rights. They differ significantly in their approaches to social welfare and social practice. It focus so let's emphasizing on reforming systems, remove barriers for equality, for instance, support legal reforms, equal pay laws. So I'm back. Liberal feminism emphasizes reform existing system to remove barriers to gender equality. For instance, support legal reforms and equal pay laws. Radical feminism argues that patriarchal structure itself must be dismantled. You see, radical feminism, as it views patriarchy as the root cause of all forms of gender, blames men in particular, because patriarchy is the rule of the father, the rule of the male. So it argues that patriarchal structure itself must be dismantled. So when you remove men, remove the rule of the father, is the root cause of all gender oppression. Approaches to social change advocates incremental change with existing political and social systems, yeah, legal political system, radical calls for transformation, transformative change, often rejecting traditional institutions as inherently oppressive, the rule of the male. They don't kingship, rule of male, rule of the father. They do not want these traditional institutions. Scope of issues. Liberal feminism focus on achieving equality in all public spheres like education, employment, and politics, while radical feminism addresses deeper issues of power dynamics such as reproductive rights, sexual violence, and ob- objectification of women, making women objects, using women as property, saying like a man saying his wife belonged to him, or everything she owns, everything, turning women to objects. Yeah, social work practice, liberal feminist approach. The social workers focus on empowering women through resources, opportunities, training, and education, and legal advocacy, while radical feminism look at social work aim to challenge, transform the norms, structures that perpetuate gender inequality, often engaging in activism, consciousness raising efforts. Liberal feminism and radical feminism offer complementary but distinct approaches in addressing gender and social work. Liberal feminism focuses on systems in to ensure equal opportunities, while radical feminism calls for a complete restructuring of the norm, the tradition, and everything of the rule of the father, patriarchal system of patriarchy. By understanding both model social work, adopt comprehensive approach, advocating rights and systematic issue. Thank you.